Hi there, I'm Matt Suter and I'm here to talk to you about the hundreds of different tarot and oracle decks that we carry here at New Visions Books and Gifts. If you're new to using cards for reading or daily inspiration, it can be overwhelming when you walk in and see a giant wall of so many different decks. Where do you start? What deck is best for what you're looking to do? Well, hopefully over our time here together, I can help you find out. First, let's start with tarot. A traditional tarot deck is comprised of two parts. The minor arcana, which is made up of 56 cards in 4 suits, just like traditional playing cards. Wands, cups, swords, and pentacles. And the major arcana, the 22 cards that you're most likely familiar with from movies and pop culture, such as the Devil, Death, and the Tower. Tarot was originally a pack of cards used in the mid-15th century in parts of Europe to play various card games. Then in the late 15th century, people began to use these same cards for reading and cartomancy, which led to the creation of decks specifically for the purpose of divination. Tarot most likely came from Mamluk Egypt over to parts of Italy between 1440 and 1450, where it was modified and spread to become the cards that we're now familiar with today. The 3 foundational decks of modern tarot are the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, created by Arthur E. Waite and illustrated by Pamela Coleman Smith, which was published by the Rider Company in 1910. The Thoth Tarot, created by Aleister Crowley and illustrated by Lady Frida Harris, which was published in 1969 by Crowley's organization, the Ordo Templi Orientis, or OTO. Unfortunately, both Crowley and Lady Harris passed away before the tarot was finally published. And finally, the Tarot of Marseille, created by Nicolas Convert and illustrated by Marsilio Ficino. The art was originally created as a series of woodcut pieces in Paris, France, around 1650, and the traditional decks, as we have it now, was published in Marseille, France, in 1760. Out of these 3 styles, the Rider-Waite-Smith is by far the most popular. It contains the richest symbolism within a clean design, whereas most find the Tarot of Marseille to be too dated and the Thoth Tarot to be too abstract. Though all 3 systems are full of valuable imagery and function just as well as any of the others. It ultimately comes down to a personal choice. Once you move beyond these 3 pillars of tarot, you enter into a sea of different decks. Some are slight variations of their predecessors, like the Radiant Rider-Waite or the Universal Waite, which contain recolored or carefully redrawn versions of the original Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot. There are also decks that utilize the same symbolism as the RWS in a slightly altered or updated manner, such as the beautiful Tarot Illuminati by Kim Huggins and illustrated by Eric C. Dunn, which was released in 2013 and is still one of the best-selling modern tarot decks in the world. Lastly, there are plenty of tarot decks that are more for the collector, such as the Cat Tarot or the Game of Thrones Tarot. Both are functional and fun. We also have a wonderful section of books on tarot. 2 I would highly recommend are the Ultimate Guide to the Rider-Waite-Smith Tarot, which does a wonderful job at breaking down each of the major symbols in each of the RWS cards, as well as 78 Degrees of Wisdom, which is a staple that has recently been re-released that I can't recommend enough. We also have the Book of Thoth that dives into Crowley's Tarot of the Egyptians, another name for the Thoth Tarot. Next, we'll talk about oracle cards. Where tarot is based on a traditional system of 78 cards, oracle decks can be anywhere from 20 to 80 cards with a myriad of uses. Most oracle cards will have an image with a word or a brief phrase on the bottom of them and will come with a booklet or a book to explain the intended card spreads created by the authors. We use the term as a catch-all for a deck of divination cards that doesn't conform to the traditional tarot framework, including fortune-telling cards, Lenormand cards, Kipper cards, and many others. Oracle cards were first created around the 19th century in France. One of the first oracle decks was created by Marie Anne Adelaide Lenormand, who was one of the most famous fortune tellers in Europe during the Napoleonic era. Her deck was comprised of a central scene surrounded by symbols. A year later, in 1846, her name was attached to another deck published in Germany. It only contained 36 cards instead of the original 54, and each card contained a simple symbol with a miniature playing card at the top. Both of these decks were published after Madame Lenormand had died. So there is some conjecture whether or not she was involved in the creation process, or if they were simply using her name due to her popularity. Nevertheless, this style of deck still exists today, and we use her name, Lenormand, to categorize them. There are many other types of oracle cards, such as these oracle cards for daily inspiration, where you would shuffle the deck and draw a card to meditate on at the beginning of your day. Some are thematically based on astrology, chakras, or crystals, amongst many other themes. Many practitioners and spiritual traditions treat their decks with the utmost respect, as they are the medium through which they connect to their higher self or to the divine. Part of this respect involves taking them out of the box as they come in and placing them into a proper storage container. Here at New Visions, we happily offer a few different options to do this. We have decorative tarot boxes, as well as beautiful velvet and silk bags to hold your cards. Ultimately, when the time comes to pick out a new deck, open yourself up and go to what you are drawn to. If you need assistance or have questions when you come in, feel free to ask. We are always happy to help in whatever way we can. Thank you, and we hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.